Oh man, when do you know it? Right when I do this, the camera craps out. Let's see. Hopefully we can get this to work. So give me 1 second here. I know you guys can hear me. There we go. So, my camera locked up on me. Hey everybody, how's it doing? Brad Panovich here. Want to do a quick little update on our tropical system. And I know that seems super hot, so I'm going to turn my mic down here. That sounds a little bit better, hopefully. We had a reboot of our system, so kind of went crazy here for a little bit. So let's talk about these rain chances coming in tonight and tomorrow. Now, so far the rain we've seen for the weekend, and really, I've got the speaker over here, it's way too loud, that we've seen for the last couple of days have really not been associated with Fred. Fred is down here to the south, made landfall about 3:15 this afternoon. You can see it near the Dothan, Alabama, heading up into southern Georgia near Albany. It's kind of heading towards the Atlanta area. We've seen just light to moderate rain at times this afternoon as these waves of rain have moved in. Some real heavy rain around the Hickory, Newton, Conover area. But as the remnants of Fred move north, what's going to happen over time here is we are going to see a big influx of tropical moisture start to get banked up against the mountains. And that typically spells bad news for flooding in the mountains. Now, the flood watch is kind of interesting. They keep expanding it to some counties, and I think it's probably going to spread out a little bit over time. I would just say anybody who lives west of I-77, I would be ready for the potential for flash flooding really over the next 24 hours, maybe 36 hours or so as we go into Wednesday morning. Here's just a quick track of what's left of Fred. It's weakening fairly quickly. This is not going to be, what's going out the track here? This is not going to be a big wind maker as it travels just west. There it goes. It's going to be a big rainmaker and potentially some severe weather. And when you're on the right side or the east side of the track, that's where all the moisture's coming in. That's the worst side of the storm. It's also the side of the storm we watch for tornadic activity because that's where the shear or the wind shear is enhanced. But make no mistake about this, this is going to be a much bigger flood threat than tornado threat. That I don't want to discount the tornado threat. I'll talk about it, but the flood threat will probably end up impacting very many more people. So this is a look at that threat tomorrow. I'm going to pause it right there, and you could see the high risk for flash flooding in most of our mountains and foothills. And again, don't read too much into the exact line. Someone said today, where am I on this line? It's like your kid playing near the road. It's too close, right? You don't want to be anywhere near that line. So if you're anywhere near it, the chance of flooding is still pretty significant. And let's be honest, I mean, the whole area is under medium risk in the yellow, so it's not like it's going to be no risk outside the area in red. The red is just the area we're trying to highlight where we think we're going to see the highest threshold. Now, Wednesday, this is primarily for the morning hours. That's where I anticipate seeing some heavy rain linger. Now, when you hear us talk about this, what we call precipitable water, it's how much moisture is in the whole column of the atmosphere. So basically from the bottom of the troposphere up to the top, where you're basically all the weather occurs. Now, the more moisture in that column, it's like a sponge, the more full it is. So when we see 2 inches or more of precipitable water, that's a lot of moisture in that column. And if you can squeeze that out, you're going to get really crazy amounts of rain and really high rainfall efficiency. So you see the remnants of Fred moving north, and you see that kind of almost fire hose type setup where these plumes of tropical moisture are aimed right at the mountains. And if you live in the mountains, you may have heard of a thing called the escarpment or the southeast facing slopes. It's basically an area where the elevation ramps up pretty dramatically from a couple hundred feet to several thousand feet. And just like a ramp, the air coming in from the southeast hits that, gets shot up into the sky, and it creates storms and rain. I mean, that basically is like putting your finger on the saturated sponge. You're going to start squeezing out the moisture, and that really causes a lot of the issues. So this setup is kind of explained in this graphic. As the swirl or the little rotation associated with Fred moves to our west, that tropical moisture banks up against these mountains, and anything that is facing perpendicular to that flow of air, which will be out of the east-southeast, is going to see very heavy rain. Now, we see the reverse of this in the wintertime, and folks always ask me about this. When we get those cold fronts and we get northwest flow, we get the snow on the Tennessee side and not on the east side. This is the reverse with rain, but this is tropical in nature, so it's going to end up producing huge amounts of rainfall. That's why the potential for flooding is really sky high with this setup here, anywhere on those eastern facing slopes. And you know those areas. I mean, the Linville Gorge area, upper Burke, Caldwell County, all the way down like Black Mountain, That area gets a lot. Around McDowell County, you know, we get a lot of flooding right there, all the way down to areas like Lake Toxaway. Those are the areas that, you know, are like temperate rainforest anyways. When we get southeast winds, there's a ton of rain. So those in particular are going to be an area that we're going to watch for. So flooding is our highest risk, but notice the tornado risk there. It's in the medium range. Well, because of the track of the system, it's basically going to move right up here. Any bands that can form that have some sunshine, and this is the key part, there's got to be a little bit of heating to get these storms to develop, because by nature of tropical systems, the storms are shallow. When you ever hear anyone say shallow thunderstorms or shallow convection, that means unlike the storms on Saturday that produced those microbursts, those were 40, 50,000 feet tall. These might only be 15 or 20,000 feet tall. So they're really shallow. They're not reaching the colder parts of the atmosphere. That's why there's not a whole lot of lightning and there's rarely any hail when you see tropical systems. There's just real heavy rain. It's called warm rain processes. It's the atmosphere is super warm in those areas. But if you do see some heating and the storms can build up to 30,000 feet, now you can start tapping into some of that wind shear or rotation that the tropical system is bringing in, and that's when you can get rotating storms. You can actually get supercells to form. So one of the things I've been watching, and this I'm doing this right in front of you to see if our models have updated here, is looking at something called the significant tornado parameter. And you can see there's a little area coming up tomorrow in the morning, but I really think it's the afternoon hours. And you know, you look at late tomorrow into tomorrow night. That's not really high, but notice how it's kind of elevated in the mountains there. Let me do a shorter range model. This only goes out 18 hours, so we'll see how much data we have. But if we go out just till tomorrow morning, you could see a couple areas. So it's not off the charts. And if I look at the rotation tracks, which is basically showing me where storms are rotating, I don't see a whole lot showing up, at least initially here. So that's a good sign. So what could cause the tornado risk to go up tomorrow? Well, let's look at the futurecast here. And I think this will kind of tell you what happens. So we go through the overnight hours, scattered showers. We go into tomorrow morning. So 7 a.m., it looks like some really heavy rain moving in, okay? We don't want the heavy rain, but this would deter the severe weather tornado threat because the atmosphere hasn't a chance to warm up yet. Sunrise has just happened. So we've got heavy rain in there. So, you know, flooding will be a risk in the morning. But as we get later into the morning hours and then around lunchtime, a couple things happen here. You notice the breaks in here. Now, there's still clouds there, but there's little holes developing. That's what I'm talking about. Just a little bit of that could help warm up the atmosphere and create some instability that the next wave of storms coming up in the afternoon, like right here, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, potentially, some of these could be rotating. And then this over here, I mean, look at that. That's the remnant low or swirl with Fred. So you want to talk about a flash flood threat. I mean, the rain rates in here in the mountains, at the same time you're getting that upslope flow, that's where you start running into issues. And we could see some rotation in there, but I really think the areas that we got to watch are these isolated cells. Remember, the sun is out here. This thing could spin. These could spin. This could spin. So those are the type of, you know, storms we're going to watch tomorrow to see if they start rotating. And then look at this line forming tomorrow evening. This thing sets up. It could be like a fire hose of rain over an area for a couple of hours, and it could produce 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rain per hour. So that band right there is one that could cause flash flooding, especially if it's over an urban area or a mountainous area where the runoff is exaggerated. And we go into the early mornings of Wednesday. There's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4, 5, 6. And then this is why I said after Wednesday morning, things actually could improve. And then you see it pushing off to the east. So Wednesday, you know, we're kind of in the clear. So how much rain are we talking about? Well, this is kind of a rough estimate based on the 7-day rainfall forecast, and it's going to take a second to update here. So you can see the path of Fred's remnants here. But look at all the rain up here as well. I mean, a lot of this is happening ahead of Fred, but as Fred moves just to the west of the mountains, you know, you see that upslope flow. 5 to 10 inches is not, you know, out of the question, especially around the Asheville area, upstate, and then back into areas of Burke, Caldwell, Avery, Ashe, and Watauga counties. The further east you go, it's kind of a hit or miss type setup. It's not a cop-out here, but we need individual bands to form up. This is just going to have more consistent rain. Here, there will be heavy downpours, but they're going to be a lot more scattered, which means the flood threat is more sporadic, but that's also why the tornado threat could be a little higher there, because there will be breaks in the clouds, as I mentioned, and that could lead to an increased chance of rotation. So it really is a setup and of heavy rain over the next couple of days primarily. I'll show you the 5-day rainfall forecast there for the mountains, but if we break this down day by day, you can see tomorrow is by far the most widespread and heavy chance. And now Wednesday is 60%, Brad. That doesn't seem that high. Well, remember, a lot of this is going to happen between midnight and sunrise, so it's kind of deceiving. I tend to put the percentage on the rain chance for while you're up, but the map kind of shows from midnight to midnight. So you see some of these heavier totals up here on Wednesday. That's because a lot of that's falling in the morning hours, because this stuff will start to move out after sunrise. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're just back into our typical kind of summer pattern, okay? So that's kind of the setup. As far as timing, there's just waves of it tomorrow. It's tough to gauge these until the waves start forming and we see how things set up tomorrow. But before I leave you, I want to tell you about the other two tropical systems, because they're really not a threat to us, especially Grace. Grace, unfortunately, is causing flooding in parts of Haiti that get hit by the earthquake. So hopefully that'll move away quickly. But this could become a hurricane and then head towards Mexico. This is not going to move near the U.S. The other storm is Henri, which is, the French term for Henry. It's Henri, so it's kind of a weird pronunciation, but it's the French version. This is going to recurve and kind of do a loop around Bermuda. And the biggest threat for us from this would be in the Outer Banks, all my Outer Banks peeps and coastal people. Pretty big swells coming off of this, and probably some pretty nasty rip currents, and maybe a little bit of overwash and some beach erosion, because it's going to be out there basically for a couple days, so the swell is going to build and really drive some water. So just be heads up for that. Even though you may not see a drop of rain from it, or even a breath of wind, you're probably going to see some pretty good waves and some surf swells and maybe some coastal flooding out of that system. So we'll wait and watch this thing tonight. I'm going to show you one more time the wider view here of the radar. There's Fred as I'm tracking it right now, moving in this direction. We'll have to watch down here for waves of rain. I think we're going to get into a little bit of a lull for a while, but the next batch of rain here is here, and then probably more late tomorrow afternoon and evening will be the time frame we watch. And just one more time for those who may be tuned in late, and remember, you can always go back and rewatch this, even though it's live. I'll show you the future cast one more time. So I'm going to go real slow here, hour by hour. And you can see the wave of rain coming up tomorrow morning. So we likely wake up to some rain tomorrow. Could there be a tornadic cell in there? Certainly a possibility, but I think the risk is low in the morning. I think we're going to need some daytime heating. I'm more concerned about afternoon and evening for the tornado risk. But tropical systems are notorious for just doing crazy things with quick spin-ups. But then the flood threat really in the mountains right here. I mean, tomorrow evening, look at that. That is some really heavy rain banking up against the mountains, and then moves out fairly quickly Wednesday morning. Now, I hesitated to show this earlier because I sometimes don't like showing pure guidance because it's kind of all over the place, but I'll show this just to give you a general idea of the amounts, and I'm going to stop this 7 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Now, these will not be the exact amounts in the exact locations, but the reason I show this sometimes is someone will say, Brad, 1.43, I tell you, is experiencing as much information as I had. I cannot tell you that precise amount. This is a model only. The reason we look at this is looking at what is the chance of seeing a range of somewhere like Boone, 8 inches. Is it going to rain 8 inches in Boone? No, but somewhere in this area probably will say 8 inches. The exact location, we're just not that good to tell you the exact location of that amount, but you get the idea. West, that's why I said west of I-77. These totals specifically I wouldn't read into, but if you look at the range, you're in that 3 to 8 inch range. And some of these purples here, in fact, that looks like Black Mountain right there that I'm circling. That's up there around 11 inches. Some of these areas west of Asheville, and then it looks like that's Mount Mitchell, it looks like right there, kind of sticking out. But it kind of tells you the potential is there for some significant flooding in the mountains and the foothills. So be weather aware tomorrow. If you live in a flood prone area, have a plan. Grab our weather app. No matter if you live in my viewing area or not, if you grab the WCNC weather app or the WCNC news app, which I put a link in this post, you download that and turn on your GPS notifications. you'll get those flood alerts. And if you have your wireless emergency alerts turned on your phone, you'll get those as well. It's always a good idea to recharge these things really good tonight. If you have a battery pack, have it charged up and ready to go, and just have a plan tomorrow. I mean, let's hope we don't have to enact anything, but this is a pretty significant flood threat for the Western Carolinas. Could see mudslides, roads washed out, all that kind of mess that we deal with when we get heavy rain over the topography of the Western Carolinas. So I'll have an update tonight at 11 on WCNC Charlotte, and of course, you know me, I'll be posting all day tomorrow. I'll probably do a vlog first thing in the morning. I'm probably going to head into work early tomorrow, depending on the setup. I'm really worried that we might get some tornado warnings. I might head into work early. If not, I can wait it out. I'll definitely post something in the morning, and we'll likely have some live streams. We're going to have our new meteorologist, KJ Jacobs, out in the storm tracker tomorrow, kind of checking all this out. And if you get pictures or video that you can safely send me, please pass them along. A lot of folks wonder, why is that important? Well, it helps us pass information on to other people, like, hey, this is what's happening and heading your way. It also goes back to the Weather Service so they can confirm some of these watches, warnings, and advisories that they put out. So hope that helps you guys. I will see you tonight at 11. Take care and be safe tomorrow.